Okay, we'll start the City of Olivet Planning and Community Design Commission for March 16th, 2023 in order. Carlos, I think you wanted to mention something?
Yes, Chairman, I just wanted to note that we had a scheduling conflict. Tonight was supposed to be a joint meeting with the city council regarding the comprehensive plan, meeting with our consultants, but that meeting actually is scheduled for April 27th. I apologize for any of the confusion. That being said, we republished an agenda because we have several housing items that need to be reviewed. We added 5 from yesterday. We will not talk about the dispensary in there. I contacted the consultants. I also contacted a representative with Sustainability Olivet and the Clean Air Olivet, just to let them know that that item would not be on the agenda, though public comments are welcome at the beginning of every meeting in there. And later in the meeting, we'll talk about the April schedule and see and set the dates for when the dispensary would be back on.
Good, good.
All right. Thank you, Chairman.
I think that's great. Okay, Madam Secretary, Jody, is Jody not here?
Jody will be absent today.
Oh, okay. Carol, would you mind calling the roll?
Chairman Robert Trujillo,
Present.
Vice Chairman Wagner, and present. Secretary Jody Rich is absent. Member Brian Lewis,
Present.
member Tim Spielross,
Present.
member Daniel Rosenberg,
Present.
and member Sam Waller.
Present.
912. Officially welcome Sam to our midst.
Thank you very much for this.
Actually, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. First rule, we have to turn the microphone on. And yeah, Missy, turn your microphone on whenever you say that.
That's really for me, Sam.
I am present and I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
All right, good, good, good.
Don, I assume you don't want me to call the roll again.
Okay, that being said, we'll move on to commission procedures. We don't really have as many people, and the people who are present, it appears to have been here before, but we will do it for anybody who else might be online. Just to kind of go over the procedures. If there's, we'll go through the agenda item one by one. There'll typically be a staff report associated with it. They'll go through their report, their findings, and then we'll have questions for Carlos among the commission members. Might be some discussion. And then at that point in time, we typically bring on the petitioner. Petitioner comes up to the podium and then kind of goes through their proposal. And if there's any questions, they might answer those at that point in time. Then there'll be time for a direct question and answer back and forth between commission members and the petitioner. After that, but then we do take on public comments related to that petition. We also do general public comments. Those are for items that are not on the agenda. And we do those at the beginning of each meeting. In fact, Carlos will do that now. And is there anybody out in the audience that has any general? No, I don't see any. And while Carlos goes through there, I just will remind everybody that we do, if anybody does have a public comment, we do ask you state your name and address for the record. If you're in the audience, you come up to the podium. If you're on Zoom, we do ask you to put your Zoom camera on as well as your mic to make sure. And those are typically tricky extra steps because I think when they come on, they're muted and the camera's turned off. So if you are online, look out for those icons and turn those cameras on and the mics on and make things go a little smoother. We do also say if there's any public comments, we do limit those to no more than 3 minutes. Be very respectful for everybody's opinion as well as everybody's time. Go ahead.
And if you're on Zoom, please raise your hand. It'll be in the bottom middle of your screen. If you'd like to make a comment during the public comment or after each agenda item.
Carlos, anybody online?
There are 2 people that are online. If you would like to speak regarding anything in general outside of an agenda item, if you can show your hands. in there. I believe I recognize one being part of one of the agenda items, but if I can just give a little bit.
Yeah, no problem.
And while waiting, Chairman, I want to remind everybody again that the city is in the process of updating its comprehensive plan. Website has been set up and we encourage people to register on the website and also to engage in any of the survey activities that are on that website. Right. And Chairman, at this point, I don't see any hands.
Okay, then we'll move on to new business and we'll go to item A, which is 9734 Mansfield Drive.
Chairman, this is in each of these petitions, my apologies if we tried to turn these over quickly. There are no written staff reports, but the conditions and comments are noted within the slide presentation. And if there is any concerns, we'll gladly defer these or discuss further. And each of them have been vetted with our Olivet residential redevelopment and design guidelines. And for each of them, we have notified property owners within 300 feet that a development proposal was coming and made sure that the plans that are before the commission tonight were made available on the city's website for view and access. This petition is for the construction of a new single-family home at 9734 Mansfield Drive. I believe the property is under contract. It is Douglas Properties, who's done several houses, especially like along Mansfield. And in this case, we don't have any major concerns regarding the overall design of the home. And I apologize, I don't have the elevations up. I'll quickly put those up in there. We've taken a look at the overall building plans, and they pretty much meet the city's guidelines for new construction. The lot is a legal lot of record, so there is no site plan review in there. So the only thing that the city is looking for is making sure it complies with the city's zoning regulations, meets the spirit and intent of the city's residential redevelopment and design guidelines. And thirdly, that we take a look at a conceptual stormwater review of the development, and I'll go into that shortly. But you can see the front elevation well exceeding the 50% brick that is recommended within the guidelines. Again, it's not required. A lot of elevational breaks in that mass. Up here on the upper left is the the side yard setback. As you can see, there's a considerable amount of foundation exposure that would be covered with the exterior finish. On there, those grades do fall pretty drastically, as you can see on the site plan. We'll go through that in a second. And then here you have the other side elevation, because it does have a side entry garage, and then the rear elevation, and you can see that grade drop on that eastern side of the property. That's reflected in this elevation here, this left side elevation. The only concerns on this, Chairman, is really further assessing some of and we didn't have the opportunity. There is a really low spot along the property here at the east side. And I think we would like to request that we work with the petitioner along with the city's consultant and meet with the neighbor to make sure that we look at the best practice in terms of how to get that water towards that street area and avoid ponding along that property. There is no change in terms with the footprint, but as you can see, as the grades are being realigned and the slopes are getting extended, we want to make sure we just don't create a ponding episode here along the side property line. And it was pretty damp even before today's rain. Of course, we did get rain over the week, but it kind of shows it's an area that seems to collect a lot of storm water. Now, as you get to the adjacent home, the grades do start to increase. So I don't believe that there's any threat to the actual structures. It's just that there is an area here that seems that it tends to collect a lot of storm water. And that's all I have, Chairman. You do have a recommendation in there, recommended motion, along with the conditions that the traditional conditions that we have on that, but to engage the stormwater consultant, neighbor, and the petitioner's representative to visit the site and collaborate on some type of BMP.
Okay, great.
We do have the petitioner here. If there's any questions.
Any commission members have any questions or comments to Carlos? Seeing none, Doug? Doug, that doesn't have anything. Does anybody have any questions or comments to Doug? Go ahead, Kurt.
I've got a comment to this. With regards to the overall design, and I'm not a design person, so I really need the feedback from the rest of you. But this is a fairly large house and it just looks very busy to me. There's lots of, which, you know, can be a good thing, but there's lots of different, I guess, design elements. There's the arch windows, there's straight windows, they're finished, there's the fencing that's got, it's an X, or maybe that's part of the siding. It looks like, it looks
I
fencing.
think it's
but
the
it could just be
cross
siding,
trim.
cross, maybe it could just be cross trim. I said, I may have made a mistake. That may be just cross trim.
Yeah.
That's the word,
I think it's the
Um,
hardy board siding
hardy
that you're
board
talking
siding.
about.
yeah. That could be.
More
It.
than that.
It just,
Yeah,
it just looks, it looks very busy to me. And I'm, as I said, I'm not a design expert, but I wanted to bring my comment forward and see what you all thought.
I see a lot of elements now that you pointed out to me. I didn't really notice it before.
Oh, please turn on your microphone. There you go.
Doug Cohen, Douglas Properties. So this home, we've built in Olivet already, maybe 3 or 4 times. This is the first time in Oak Estates. This is the same house as across from Old Bonham School, 9644 Old Bonham, which is a very, very nice house, beautiful house. And actually with this house, we're going with a very light brick. And it's not a painted brick, but it's like a whitewashed brick. And the siding will be white. So your comments about busyness, which I don't agree with, will be washed away with the muted colors of the same. If that makes sense. You understand what I'm saying?
Kind of, but I'd still really like to hear from my colleagues on the commission, so.
That's one of the questions I was gonna ask, is if this has been built before, you know, and. it's a good
Everyone's very
example.
happy with this model.
Yeah.
This house we just built, like I said, right across the street from Old Bonham School, first of all, on Stoneleigh Towers. Where does Sashnik live? What's that street? It's Sashnik. Can't remember the name of the street. But this will be number 4, I believe. And, you know, we've never had any pushback on it. It's always been a great house. In Richmond Heights, we just finished this house and it sold for 1.9. So this has been a very receptive house to the market.
I think I know the house you're talking about, across from Old Bonham.
Yeah, I would hope so. I'm sure everyone drives by it every day.
Right.
So it's
Yeah.
like literally the same house, same floor plan, same elevations, everything's completely the
Yeah.
same. Cool.
Except the colors.
Does anybody else have the same reaction that I did, or?
Personally, I think it looks great. I think it's great looking.
I can kind of concur based on knowing that what that house across the street, you know, I do like that house, so. I understand where it came across with some. of these. Okay, any other?
Chairman,
questions?
I'll show it is updated in the Google Streetscape, so I can show that home if you'd like.
Yeah, I think maybe, Carol, I think maybe when we see like the black and white drawings, those differences kind of pop out a little bit more than.
That could be.
Bear with me one second. That should pop up. In there, and I can see if I can just move the pedestrian icon just a little bit.
You're right, see, that's it.
What's that?
Yeah.
There we go. Is that all right?
Yeah. Yeah. Right, any more questions or comments? Carlos, can you check to see if there's anybody online that has any questions or comments?
Okay, if there's anybody that would like to speak in regards to this petition, if you can show your hand. I don't recognize any of the names regarding this one, this property. And Chairman, there are none.
Okay. Carlos, can you put that, the recommendations on the
Yes.
screen? Always helpful. Any further discussion? Seeing none, do I hear a motion?
Bear with me.
Here we go.
I'll make a motion. Jim.
Great.
Motion to approve the petition for a site plan and community design as the concept stormwater management plan review for a new single-family home at 9734 Mansfield Drive, as presented in the memorandum from the Department of Planning and Community Development dated March 16th, 2023, subject to any staff conditions noted therein.
Motion been made by Brian Lewis. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Daniel Rosenberg. Carlos, will you please call the vote?
Commissioner Wallach.
Approve.
Commissioner Spiegelglass.
Approve.
Commissioner Rosenberg.
Approved.
Commissioner Lewis.
Approve.
Commissioner Wagner.
Approved.
And Chairman Dragell.
Approved.
And the motion passes unanimously 6-0.
Okay, good. We'll now move on to item B, which is 9515 Engel Lane. Guys,
Right. Chairman, this property is located on Ingle Lane, kind of encircled by part of the Crabapple subdivision, which backs up to Olive Boulevard. It's on the north side. To the west is a newer home, probably about 20 years old or so. And then to the right is one of the Crabapple homes. Crabapple is a subdivision primarily consisting of one-story homes. Several of those, including the one neighboring here, are slab homes in there. So they have a very horizontal and low height. What's unique about this petition is there's a substantial grade drop between this property, which is not part of the Crabapple subdivision, but it abuts the Crabapple subdivision. And you can see there's roughly about a 10-foot drop between properties. They've incorporated a lot of the design elements in our Olivet residential redevelopment guidelines to kind of break the mass and not tower over the house, including ensuring that the roof line is sloped along there. But again, there is concern because it is a quick drop. This is a front entry garage. It does not consist of 50% brick on the front elevation. We are concerned about the location of the AC condenser in there, so it doesn't impede access to get to the backyard from the front in there. So we've talked to the petitioner about that and moving that towards the back. They're not showing where it's at in this case. But here we have some limited side yard abilities. We're not sure where the sump pump discharge is located, and we talked to the petitioner about that to make sure that that's something we're going to take a look at in there. The finished material on the sides and the rear, the foundation walls along the side, especially on the east, is exposed. And we talked to the petitioner about bringing the exterior finished materials downward within a foot of grade. So those would be covered on the side. We haven't traditionally requested that in the rear before. And those elevations kind of show you the extent of foundation exposure. And then again, here's one of these things where we consult with the stormwater review, which it does meet the detention requirements. You know, everything that's generated, all the rainwater that's generated on the roof of the structure is going to go into a pit in the yard, and then that holds the water and then slowly disperses it over time in there. But again, the bigger concern is this grade drop between properties and what that impact is. So we talked to the petitioner asking that we want further stormwater review with our consultant in this to make sure that we find the best solution to minimize impacts to the property here, this lower property to the east. I'll note there's already issues back there. They are at the bottom of the hill, and you walk in that area and you can see where water, traditionally ponds, in there. Again, this improvement should reduce the volume of water going down from this lot. There are other lots that impact this property in there. But we also want to make sure that if there are means to make sure that, when the stormwater detention pit disperses its water, that we have plenty of room for it to evaporate, slow down, and keep away from that property as best as possible. This house is not going to solve the solution of this grade deviation between those two properties in there. It's pretty dramatic and it's pretty steep in there. And as you can see, they have systems in place to kind of, moat the water around the house in there because they're so low and it's a slab. But they agreed that they would work with our consultant to kind of take a look at that and make sure that we find, whatever we can do to ensure that, at least water from this side is minimized onto the neighbors. The adjacent property to the back, is a big contributor to some of their water problems too. So it's not just this lot in there. So that is all I have on this. We've talked with the petitioner about adding brick along the front elevation. They are willing to do so if the commission wishes. It's not a requirement by code. It's just recommended within the code. And they are willing to bring the exterior finish material on the east elevation down to a foot from grade. Make sure that they're willing to make sure the AC condenser is not located on the side elevations, if at all possible, in there. That at the final stormwater site plan improvement plan, they will identify the sump pump discharge location and review and work with our stormwater consultant. We use a firm now called EDM to assist us in analyzing that area in the back. Again, the detention requirement is met. It's just if we can take a look at the grading and see if there are ways to minimize some of the impact to the adjacent neighbor. And then the traditional conditions about limiting the top of foundation, the final plan, verification of setbacks, and limited exposure on the street signs. Be glad to answer any particular questions. I believe I do have a representative online for this, and we did send out notifications to all properties within 300 feet. I did receive one call from across the street, just curious of what was going on.
So the mailing did go out.
Carlos, it looks like we're doubling the total site coverage, but you think you're pretty comfortable working with the stormwater that'll be accounted for with the kind of the approach of capturing it?
That's correct. I mean, it will, the pit will be designed to capture that excess. So even, that existing footprint or what's contributed now that isn't accounted for will be accommodated in the new pit along with the new the square footage. So actually we're kind of reducing the amount of hard surface stormwater that's going onto that site. And that works well, especially from an engineering mathematical approach, for lack of a better description. But it's usually the grades, the what's left and on how the grades work and how they tie into the surrounding properties. As you can see back here in this photo, this Doty took, how higher the other house in the back is in there. And that pit would go around here. To me, it probably makes more sense that the pit be located higher in the elevation to allow it room to slow down and seep in the grades. Now, I did look of could the stormwater pit be put in the front yard so we can get it to the street quickly? And no, because of the narrowness of the lot, the water main, the gas main all run along here, and then the driveway is there. So there's not practical room to try to put this in the front in there. And to some extent, you can see here, even if I got the pit towards the front, odds are it's going to run backwards back behind this fence area.
Carlos, is there any way to put in swales on both sides of the house to try to at least divert some of that rear drainage?
It
from
made the
your-
difficulty that I've seen in the past, trying to put a swell on a slope. Isn't very effective. And it may be that more of a French drain system or some type of mechanical system or design system be put in place as opposed to trying to do it by swell. I like swells because they're visible. When they get clogged, you can see them, you can maintain them. But in this case, it's only 6 feet. It's 6 feet that's going to be somewhere like this, and then trying to dip a swell in there, it's not going to be as effective.
You'd have
And then
to,
trying to cut the grass, you're going to hit that mound and it'll erode over time.
you'd almost have to put it like a retaining wall.
That's another possibility that maybe that, flattening the yard on that area towards the street
Yeah.
is a better solution. There may be excess dirt that they can utilize, but this house does have a foundation already. But, that might be, it's still a bigger footprint, like Commissioner Lewis noted, extra dirt that they can utilize and run a foundation wall along here. The only thing is I do have that utility easement here, and you can see it, but it may be something that runs around across here.
Any other questions or comments for Carlos? Go ahead, Carl.
Yes, Carlos, you said the petitioner was interested in possibly adding some additional brick. Do we know where and how much?
Yeah, they would be willing to the increase to break the 50% here along that front elevation if required. And again, it's not a requirement by code. I want to stress that. This is we encourage that, but it is up to the petitioner to articulate what, why this design is set this way in there. And there are, we've seen like traditional Cape Cods usually don't have brick on them, so. And I'm not saying that this is one, but I'll let the petitioner address that.
So the work that's shown along the front, is that stone?
Yes.
Yeah, I wasn't seeing any brick. Is there any brick anywhere?
No, just a
Okay.
stone base on that lower part and me go back to that one.
And then what is the material on the front side? Up top, I'm not seeing any notes calling that out. The vertical.
I'll let the architect representative call that. And that's primarily from the picture I took in there. It may be within your packet plans too.
The elevations are there. I just don't see it called in.
Okay. Is the east elevation is the siding, is the vinyl siding. Yeah, so. I'll let them know that.
Well, let's go ahead and bring
Okay.
them on and we'll see.
Mr. Thompson, I'm going to transfer you over and promote you to a panelist. Again, if you can turn on your mic and your video to address the commission, be greatly appreciated. Okay, Mr. Thompson, I do have you transferred over. I do need you though, at the lower left corner, you should be able to control your mic and your video. There you go. And you're still muted. You're almost there.
Okay, how about that?
Thank you, sir.
Okay, great. I'm Mike Thompson, Thompson Design Group, the architect for the project. Yes, it's what we're trying to do with the elevation. It's a very country looking house. And so it has stone base to it, but otherwise it's board and batten mostly on the front. And so that's the look of it. We're willing to add more masonry if that's what the commission feels needs to be, but the country look is what we're going for.
Carol, what do you think?
I think it's fine.
Daniel? What do you think?
Yeah, I really like the front facade. I'm not as crazy about the sides, but
How much space is there between the houses?
Yeah.
Roughly about 12 feet.
so that might be. fine.
Any other thoughts, questions?
I'm wondering if there are other front entry garages on the street.
It's a good question. The property immediately to the left, right next door. And then circling. So this is the elevation of what's being proposed. And then this is the neighboring property here. It has a front entry garage and you can see it right here. In there. And that's due because the lots along that area are 60 feet wide. So trying to do a turnaround or a side entry garage, there just isn't the width that you would have like in the Oak Estates one that we saw.
Sure.
Where they're a little bit more wider. Good question.
Any other questions or comments? No, okay. Hearing none, Carlos, you see if there's any public comments on this. I thought I saw a hand raised.
That was Mr. Thompson's and I'll see if there is anything else. If there's anybody else that would like to speak regarding this agenda item?
Oh, I do have one quick question for Mr. Thompson. Is the ground sloping from the front to the rear? Is that what I see on this elevation?
Yes, that's what you see on the elevation. I think there was some confusion. We, after the site plan got done and we had the grades, this is actually what the house looks like. We've built it over in Creve Coeur, or I should say this house is 20 inches narrower than the house we built in Creve Coeur, but pretty much the same look. Yeah, and somehow the revised plan, once we got the grades, we revised it. It will not slope down on the sides like it's showing there. It's as you can see on the grading plan, the site is essentially flat. So in fact, there'll be a patio in the back. It's so you don't, all that concrete that you're seeing here on the plan, yes, will not be there. The ground actually will come up to the bottom of the siding.
Okay, great. Just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Mhm.
Carlos, anybody?
Nope, there was nobody, no one.
Okay, that being said, if there's no other further discussion.
Chairman, and I just, if I can get a clarification on the brick, I was not sure what the direction of the commission was.
I don't think that's going to be required. Any, we'll just, I'm looking around.
Oh, because I think if you went up any higher, you'd be the window would be. I don't think that would be. I thought initially they should have more.
Yeah. Or stonework, yeah, but I agree with you. So, and then also too, with the, the exposed foundation, it's gonna show a lot more stonework too, so. It's gonna get some extra,
Yes.
square footage that way, so. Okay, that being said, do I hear a motion? Go ahead, Carol.
Like the motion to approve the petition for the site plan, community design and concept stormwater management plan review for a new single-family home at 9515 Angle Lane, as presented in the slide presentation of the Department of Planning and Community Development dated March 16, 2023, subject to staff conditions noted therein. The conditions are listed.
I do have one quick question before we second that motion. Is the stonework gonna wrap, on that exposed foundation? Is it going to wrap around the sides at all? Or is it just gonna stop at the front?
It's unfortunately, it just stops in the front due to the 6-foot side yard setback and the lot is already so narrow that, yeah, we didn't have room for the 4 inches for it to return back on the sides.
What do you think? Design.
Well, I mean, that's what I was saying before,
Yeah.
but I thought you were saying just the fact that it's so narrow I think Tim mentioned this too.
Yeah.
You're just not gonna see it that much. I mean.
I think you're right. I get it. Sorry, guys. I'm just getting caught up.
No, might as well be thorough here, but no, like you said,
Okay, do I hear a second?
Second.
Ed seconded. Carlos, will you please call the vote?
Commissioner Wallach, Commissioner Spiegel, yes.
approved.
Commissioner Rosenberg. Approved. Commissioner Lewis,
Approved.
Commissioner Wagner,
Approved.
Sherman Jergel,
Approved.
and the motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Thompson. The next
Thank you.
process, the petitioner to apply for necessary building permits, and we'll work with them on the stormwater.
Great, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So let's move on to item C, which is 1119 Hilltop Drive. Carlos, whenever you're ready. Sure.
Chairman, I'm going to kind of go over all three properties. These three properties are right adjacent to each other. They're on Hilltop Drive, just right behind Chevy's. In there, we've been working with the petitioner as they were looking at different scenarios for redevelopment of these homes on Hilltop Drive. The end result was to revert back to single family use. And we made some modifications to our code to help try to facilitate that. These are the first three homes in here, and the aerial kind of shows an outline of the proposed new home footprints, their driveway access in comparison with Chevy's. Note the multifamily development is right in this back area. So these property lines no longer exist. It will be part of the Opus now Balboa development, and I'll explain that later in there. This is Mr. Koenig's property. This property is existing and will stay. You can see that the older homes along here have a setback less than what is permitted by code. A person is no longer allowed to build a house that close to the street. The minimum is 25 feet, and that's why you see these three new homes set back a little further back in there. They do maintain the streetscape, and they will add additional sidewalk along these areas here. And then I'll go through the elevations on those, but I wanted to kind of address that in there. These are the elevations of the home. As you can see, Chevy's, the back of Chevy's is right here. Then we start with the first house at 1119. This house has an elevation in which they're proposing it's a front entry garage, which we need to bring to the commission's attention, and also no masonry. The second home, 1123 Hilltop, will have a front entry garage, and then stonework along the first floor. And then the third home will have a front entry garage, and then we'll have a brick front here on the lower level here. And the purpose was to try to do some differentiation between the three homes. They pretty much have the similar footprint, but the elevations along the front change slightly to create some uniqueness between the three houses. And then here I put one of the existing homes in here for reference and also for scale in there for you to view. Real quickly, I'll go over 1119 Hilltop Drive, which is the first home right behind Chevy's. This is the one without the masonry, has a front entry garage, differentiation with the use of siding along the elevation, a projection out here for the front door, and then a two-car wide garage. They have articulation along the sides. Again, these are very shallow side yards, so this is a reasonable amount of articulation to avoid, looking into each other's houses in that process. And also, this is the elevation that's going to face the wooden fence that buffers the Chevy's property from this. The stormwater detention pit is kind of located back here at that back corner at the northwest. So all the stormwater that's generated in the roof will go down the downspouts and then goes into this pit back here. Now, from this pit, the petitioner is fortunate that they back up to an MSD stormwater line. They will actually connect directly into the stormwater line. So any stormwater that's generated from this house, from the roof of the house, will go down, it sits in the pit and then releases directly into the stormwater line. So essentially, outside of the driveway, the patio and the grading, there is no stormwater that would be, no excess stormwater that would be generated on this site. Note to the commission, again, this is front entry garage. There's no brick on the front elevation. We talked about the petitioner about relocating the AC condensers. Therefore, if somebody is going to the backyard, they don't have to trespass on the adjacent property. And there, that the stormwater pit is directly connected to the MSD stormwater line. And then that the sidewalk meet the ADA requirements. Right now, it's shown as 4. It will be increased to 5. The petitioners consented to that and to the conditions that are noted here in there. If the commission petitioner is here, and I'd be glad to answer any specific questions, and I'll let, do you want me to go to the other 2 or take one by one?
Okay, go ahead.
Let's do the other two.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
The next property is at 1123 Hilltop. And again, you can see the front elevation. It has a front entry garage, which I need to bring to your attention, but it's permitted by code. These are narrow lots in here, and in this case, 40 feet wide. We've asked the petitioner to relocate the AC condenser. Again, what happens here is, they're required to have a minimum 5-foot side yard setbacks. If you put the AC condenser in there, then you have a 3-dimensional object that provides an obstacle for someone trying to get to their backyard. And that's why we're asking them to kind of coordinate and put that towards the back. They will have window wells, but window wells are somewhat passable and they're below grade for the most part. So we think that's an acceptable solution in there if the AC condensers are moved to the back. And this one also benefits from the MSD sewer main back here, that all the stormwater that's generated on the roof will go down through the gutters into this detention pit, and then the detention pit will release it directly into the stormwater pipe. And again, the petitioner is acknowledged and will increase the width of the sidewalks to 5 feet to meet the ADA standard. We do permit 4-foot wide sidewalks, but when you do that, you have to provide what we call a bump out, so someone can turn or get out of the path of in there, but you can't use or claim a driveway as a bump out. So in this case, it's easier if they just provided a full 5-foot wide, as opposed to trying to create little bump outs in between each of those driveways or within reason. And finally, 1126 Hilltop Drive. This will be the house that will be adjacent to the existing home that will still be maintained in there. In this case, just to note, I do need to bring the commission's attention. It is a front entry garage, but this is also a very narrow lot, 40 foot in width, I believe, in here. So there isn't much opportunity to bring that to the back without having repercussions of increased stormwater and such. The house will have its detention pit in the back, just like the others. However, this one does not benefit from the MSD sewer main that's back here. It's actually off the site, but there is an inlet here at this corner. So what they're trying to do is to make sure that the release point is as closest to that inlet as possible to pick up that stormwater. So again, it should have minimal impact onto any existing house that will be maintained, but should be able to work with its neighboring, the new 2 neighboring houses in there. And that's all I have, Chairman. Petitioner is here. We did send out notifications. We did talk to Mr. Koenig, who has a house again right adjacent, and that's the one that's shown here on the right. He was supportive of the petition. I did not receive any additional calls regarding that.
Okay, great. Thanks, Carlos. Appreciate it. Any questions or comments for Carlos? Seeing none, any concerns at all with the house that has no masonry?
I don't love that one of all of them. And then my other question is, what am I seeing on that front above the doors? Is that roofing? I can't figure out what that is.
On which one?
Yeah, what is that?
Is that like a little roof over a porch that extends out?
This right here, there's the porch and there's the pillars. And then So the door is underneath, of course, in the background, and then this extends forward. Excuse me, you could best see it right here.
There's like shingles.
You see the extension. And then the two pillars, which are right here and right here. And then this siding here is what's along here.
Yeah, but you wouldn't see that on the front elevation. There's no,
Right.
you're looking straight at it.
Not seeing it.
It's not on the plan.
Maybe I'm missing it.
No, I'm with you, because
You shouldn't see the roofing on that elevation.
yeah, the way it's.
Catch you.
There's a little cricket.
We have the handheld one.
Okay. Well, because otherwise then you have.
You got bad insurance.
Well, we're fine.
I'm Ian Cohen,
We're gonna get you a mic.
Although, because the mic is important for anybody who's online.
Oh, snap. Okay. No dancing? Hi, Andy Cohen, Kennerly Custom Homes, 15 Narragansett Drive. And before I answer Tim's question, I just wanted to thank the commission. I wouldn't have had this opportunity without the help and assistance for the many, many months with yourselves, Mr. Trejo, and then I'd like to say a special thank you to Councilwoman Waldman for really helping get this to the council and getting it approved. So thank you all very much. And I'm happy to answer your question about, so you're asking about the gable that comes out over the covered porch?
But why am I seeing roofing at a straight angle to it?
You're talking about this piece right here?
Yeah. What is?
I think it's a roofing cricket that would hit the gable that would then hit the sidewall of the second story.
And the reason is you have this jog right here.
I think I think the ice and
Right, but yeah, yes, it is, but you shouldn't have it up on the wall. The cricket is being coming down, yeah. But I think it will work itself out in the plan.
it could be, that's a good point. I would think it would get, let's hope it's gonna get worked out in the plan. And the actual, you mean, I don't want water going into the home? No. No, you're correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
So my other comment was, I do think that maybe even a halfway up the wall masonry or something on that house would do it. I think that's a lot of siding to put on a front elevation.
Where do you guys think, what would you think is a good spot to, if you had to wing it on the spot to run it up to?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think anything would be good, just whether it's like.
The reason why I didn't have it initially was I was trying to have some completely different looking elevation where one has stone, one has brick, and then the far left one has just siding. But I'm not opposed to it. It wasn't really a cost issue of why I did. Usually hear somebody say, well, that wasn't the reason why. I was trying something different, but
I think halfway up or, 4 feet or whatever would break that up and it would not look like the
Just
next house over.
okay,
I think that's my opinion.
that works for me.
Whatever. I'm fine.
Chairman,
Yeah.
and I don't particularly care. I've just, in the past, we've noticed like on the siding, Just the number of windows, do we care? It's a lot of siding. I'm looking at, I think it's the third house.
What sheet are we on?
I'm on page 6, I think.
The only thing that I think of is, you kind of go back to Mike Saunders, bringing this up from the past is, whenever you have these narrow, lots
Mhm.
and you have the houses right next to each other, you know, what are you gaining with the windows? Because
Yeah.
people can't see them from the street and then you just end up having the residences look in each other's houses.
Yeah.
You know, so. I think that's, I mean, that's where, in these types of situations, I don't think it's. as
Well, and
crucial.
it doesn't make sense even on the plans where, sometimes we talk about a window, but it's like, are you gonna put a window in a random place that doesn't make sense?
Right,
So I'm just throwing it out there.
but
But I-
what about, the one, the far south one? That's gonna end up bordering Chevy?
I think you're gonna be looking right in the parking lot and the people in the parking lot are gonna be looking right at you.
Good point.
There are certainly some site challenges, it's rare to have a newly proposed apartment development in the rear with some new homes proposed in the front and the commercial that's existing to the left. So it presented some unique challenges and some unique advantages too. Having a fully graded property in the rear with a new apartment development, I actually see the benefit having a new building. So I think there's some advantages to it, much like having the MSD storm sewer. I don't think I've come across that here in Olivet or any other city where you can literally have that overflow go right into it. I think that's, not being an engineer, I think it's kind of cool, actually, pretty helpful.
Andy, is that sidewalk just gonna dead end? Or is that somehow?
I was gonna. So the city, you all have a right of way easement. I'm going to propose to take it to to the curb cut to where if you could walk on the sidewalk, you'd go to Chevy's.
No.
Carlos does want to commit
There
that much.
there would be two things. It's a very good question. Appreciate the inquiry. So we recognize on the south end along Chevy's, there are some difficulties trying to get the sidewalk to Olive, and that shouldn't be shouldered for the construction of a new home. He's not subdividing in this process. GRG, the Great Rivers Greenway, took a look at it and saw the complexities. What we're hoping to do that if we ever have any future redevelopment either on the Chevy side or across, on the between Hilltop and I-170, we do have a plan in place that we want that sidewalk extended in there, especially because when you get to Olive, you'll have a crossing island in the middle of Olive to get to the Olive Crossing development in there, and we want to connect, the Hilltop Arrowhead neighborhoods through the community as best as possible. That being said, now as you head north, we're looking at, as these homes redeveloped, to expanding the sidewalk, because it does start pretty much from here, I believe, northward towards Hilltop and getting that ADA compliant. And in this case, it may be house by house in there. And then with what we traditionally had called the Opus development that has changed names, and I'll go over that later. They're extending the sidewalk along Alice. So we will get the Hilltop Arrowhead neighborhood more interconnected with Olive and then with the industrial parks in that process. So there is a plan in place in there. We're not asking the developer to solely take the shoulder that responsibility in there, but he is willing to, as some of these homes develop, fill in those gaps. And in this case here, to extend his all the way up to that Chevy's apron makes sense.
Very good. That's
So
great.
we do appreciate it.
The site plan didn't reflect it at the time. It was sort of a just ongoing conversation that Carlos and I have been having as far as to where to take it to.
That's great.
So actually, I
Quick,
didn't
Carol.
realize I had this here. So here, yes, we work with Mr. Cohen to extend it down here to the apron. You can see some, however, there is sidewalk from here to here, not sure how, and then it stops. As these redevelop, and we hope that some of these are being redeveloped soon, that sidewalk would be extended, and then the city would then clear any of the gaps. This side is going to be difficult, in there. Not sure how we're going to do that. And the GRG recognized that and decided to, realign their trail towards the CVS, as opposed to trying to go through Hilltop.
The first 5 lots, and I'm not sure if this is why and how the sidewalk stops, but the first 5 lots are platted as their own subdivision, and then it changes over where the sidewalk ends as it moves north.
Just put a crosswalk to the other
Yeah.
side. Go ahead, Carol.
Carlos, if we're trying to, if we're thinking about taking the sidewalk down to Olive, have we approached the owner of Chevy's and
No.
see if they have any ideas or even interested?
No, we haven't gotten to that point to do so. We know we've had discussions with other agencies on how to best do it. And it's a significant cost. I mean, Chevy's would either it's because it's going to get torn down that the nexus would be there to require it. Because there's hydrants and some other utilities as you head towards the corner. It was enough to dissuade the GRG to go the other way. And that's saying something in terms of its cost. Ideally, it may be that if Chevy's ever redevelops, that we would go upward and up here or along this area as opposed to along the curb.
Any more questions or comments for Andy?
I do. So I own 1139 and 1143 Hilltop, which would be
The next two without sidewalks.
the next is, oh yeah, is that the right address?
This is Larry.
Yeah, Larry, and then 35, and then is that 39?
This is 39. I see a 9 here.
Oh, good call. Good eyes.
So I would-
Yeah, so the last 2 on that image, I own those 2. Correct. And typically, whenever I've been doing one on Hilltop or Collingwood, the standard practice I've just adopted is a new sidewalk's going to go in as well as a new driveway approach, driveway apron. And they get completely damaged during construction anyway. It's the right thing to do to replace it.
Okay, there's no other further questions or comments. Carlos, do we have anybody online that has any
All
comments?
right. If there's anybody that'd like to speak in regards to the petition item, if you can show your hand. There are 2 people online. I think one is Mr. Thompson.
Do we align on how far up the brick? I think you'd asked, would we align on what the level would be, or are you on the first house, you guys wanted more masonry?
Any
Something,
thoughts?
you're good with that? Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Carlos, we can make a note, and when I would submit with the building permit, we'll do approximately 3 or 4. I guess I'd look at the plan to see if there's any weird break with one of those 2, but I'm fine with whichever, either.
I mean, I think it's hard to say without seeing it. So yeah, we have minimum of 3, but I mean, who knows?
I can say 4, but.
I mean,
Let's just say, how about we just say 4? It's a round number.
okay. Yeah, I would hate to have it like that. We say 4, that it not line up with something and
Yeah, I guess that's a good
We'll
point.
give you flexibility, 4 plus or minus, so it. does
I like the
not-
flexibility. Thank you.
Carlos, any hands raised?
No, sir.
Okay, so no hands are raised, no further questions or comments, looking around, so do I hear a motion?
Can we do all 3 at once, or do we need to do them individually?
I think we should-
Go ahead, Chairman.
I was gonna say all 3 at once, but it's March Madness. It's here.
I'll make the minutes reflect that the commission was acting on each one, but I understand the process. Okay.
Go ahead, Carol.
I'd like to motion to approve the petition for site plan to design the concept stormwater management plan review for a new single-family home at 1119 Hilltop Drive and 1123 Hilltop Drive and 1127 Hilltop Drive. As presented in the slide for presentation from the Department of Planning and Development dated March 16, 2023. Subject to staff conditions therein, and the conditions are noted.
It's a- What about the additional requirement?
With the
for,
additional-
Oh, with the.
1119.
1119, Hilltop, 4 feet of brick. Approximately.
Yes.
Motion's been made by Carol Wagner. Do I hear a second?
Second.
And seconded by Tim Spiegelglass. Carlos, you please call the vote.
Commissioner Wallach? Approved. Commissioner Spiegelglass?
Approved.
Commissioner Rosenberg?
Proof.
Commissioner Lewis?
Approved.
Commissioner Wagner?
Approved.
And Chairman Dragell?
Approved.
The motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you all for your time tonight. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you.
And for the months that you've had to see my face.
Take us home.
Glad to have you back.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Okay.
Okay. Where's my agenda? I think we covered all of those. Nicely done. And I don't see any staff reports on the agenda, so we're just adjourning, right?
Couple of things I do need to talk about.
There's no.
More importantly. Yeah, is the April meeting date in there. So it was brought to my attention, April 6th is the second day of Passover. The first 2 days traditionally are a little bit more observant. And there, it's also Maundy Thursday in there. So asking the commission that we reschedule, cancel that date and consider rescheduling. Our next regular meeting would be April 20th. And we do have the dispensary, in the works, and I didn't realize that 420 had some relationship with marijuana. So I don't know the general thoughts. I did talk to the petitioner, and they were not concerned either way. But I still have 3 more homes, a pool, and a 3-lot subdivision in there. In that they do take a lot of time, and I'm a little concerned about having the dispensary and those items. So I'd like to have 2 meetings of April, if at all possible, with the dispensary being on its own in one, and then the other items being on the other. So I do need to do the contacts and information so people are aware. So I'm bringing that to the commission's attention to kind of discuss, can we have another meeting beyond the 420?
I'm okay for it, but how's everybody else feel?
I am fine. I am out of town from the 11th to the 15th.
Please speak in your microphone.
Is that right there next?
I am out of town between the 11th and the 18th, so I'm fine any other day.
I can't make the 13th, unfortunately. I have family in town.
So that's 2. So I would prefer, and then the 20th, again, that is one of our regular dates. Would there be consideration to the 27th? Oh, wait.
Well, April 27th.
No, yeah, I can't. Yeah,
If we're gonna add another one on the 27th, or we're meeting on the 20th, we just,
wait for the,
Work away.
yeah, why don't we just cram everything in on the 20th?
okay. And I have no problem with that in there. Yeah, and we'll work on that, the agenda set. If we can get as much confined on those houses to get them to a consent, that would be ideal.
Okay.
If there are some pushbacks on some of the issues, I may ask if the commission can meet at 6:30 instead of 7, just to give us some time. In there, that's all right.
Okay, well, yeah, I'm okay with the 2 meetings. If you're really concerned that it's
no,
gonna be like super long, then yeah, let's break it out.
Well, more concerned about the public comment and how long that can take.
Yeah,
in
no,
that
you're right,
process.
you're right.
In there, so
Do you envision we'll be at a point where we're voting, actually?
I would think
When's our 90 days up?
Yeah.
not until May. I mean, we still have time
Okay. Very good.
in there.
I mean,
We have
for-
engaged with a traffic consultant. They'll have their study completed the first week after April, or the first week of April, I should say, in there. So they should have their architectural information to me So I'm hoping that there would be sufficient information and staff guidance if the commission's ready to act. If the commission wants to consider more, or take in the information that was given and provided, that would be up to you guys in there. But I think by the 20th, my goal is that I would have everything here before you to give you a confident recommendation.
Will we get the traffic study emailed to us prior though?
Yes,
Okay.
We got a better handle on the volume of business.
that
How
is
that
part of
can-
the traffic study recommendation. And again,
Any
the,
previews?
pardon?
Any previews?
In terms, no, not yet. The city of De Pere is doing an analysis of the trip generations by dispensaries. And essentially, we're kind of tagging on, piggybacking through utilizing the same consultant that's doing the analysis on the same properties in there. And then, it is my opinion, and what I've heard is, traffic is hard to get out on Dolores. And that's even before the dispensary. So that's a unknown, and I'm not going to do a traffic study to analyze Olive Boulevard and know that there's a lot of traffic and it's hard to get out because you're, in there. So what we've asked the consultant is, I like an analysis of the trip generations that are generated on these type of uses. They are very new. Nobody that in terms of other communities, have I found that they had specific parking requirements for dispensaries. They usually all fall under retail. In there, they were doing this study for De Pere, and they're doing an analysis of several dispensaries that are in operations in the region, and then doing some reviews of studies that have been done, nationally in there, and which we had already started looking at it, and I gave them our stuff to that. Then I want them to do an analysis of the 3 entrances that this site has and how to effectively utilize it based on those trip generations in there, and then report that back to the commission.
Who's doing the traffic study?
Doc Mueller Group. They're also they've done our traffic, the Olive Boulevard master plan, and they're part of the consultant team with Shockey and Associate, Shockey Consulting.
When we did the previous traffic study, before of that, was there any recommendations to just make that a right turn only out of Dolores?
No. No. I mean, in terms of the overall objectives of the Olive Boulevard master plan, yes, but it does have, so it limits the residents, the ability of the residents in that area if we do those conversions, and we recognize that's throughout the Olive in there. Everybody, as long as it's not on their at their corner or their apron, would prefer not to have that restricted or a boulevard or a median in place. The ones that we typically see, we have one on Dealman, we have it on by Hilltop and by Price, is that MoDOT does place, does do a restriction, but only from a certain distance. I don't know what the exact number is. Looks like it's over like about 200 feet. So they, when you go out here, it goes as far back as the Walgreens and the Firestone. Same with the Jiffy Lube and McDonald's. You can't, do that direction. Those are signalized intersections. When you get to like a Magnet, a Basswood, or a Dolores, you typically don't see those in place.
Go ahead, Carol.
I was gonna ask you back to the meetings in April. The joint meeting with council and PCDC, do you expect that to be like a 2-hour meeting?
I would think, yeah, I don't think it would be more than 2.5 hours. I think the commission will get an overview of the data that's been collected to date, and then information from the advisory committee meeting. So it's about a similar time.
I was wondering if we needed to have like a brief PCDC meeting.
I thought about that, but I think that'd be difficult, and I didn't realize that they were kind of in conflict with each other.
Why don't you throw out the proposed date and we can see who can actually
Well,
commit?
I think I'm fine with the 20th. If we stick to the 20th, if we can narrow down in there, and it may be that somebody that does want to, do something different from the guidelines, let's say, as an example, that they go to the first meeting in May.
Good. Yeah, I think that's good company.
I got, there was Long Acres, Marbrook, and I can't think of where the other one's at. A pool on Ramsgate.
Oh, okay.
Yes, please speak into the microphone.
I think there's 3 new homes and a new pool. Says, to my memory.
All right, good.
It's amazing how busy, I mean, a lot of residential permits still very active.
A popular community.
That's all I had, Chairman. I appreciate it.
It's, he's coming on, sorry. Okay, Missy.
All right, thank you very much. Again, thank you for all that you do, Sam. Welcome aboard. I'm inviting all of you to the March 28th City Council meeting. That is when the city is going to say, thank you. Happy retirement. Go play grandma 24/7 the rest of your life. And our kudos to Barb Sondag. So if you want to have your own, appreciation, hello, goodbye, thank you. Your time to be there is we're going to have a little gathering here at the end of the city council meeting on March 28th. So that's your opportunity. And I was asked to make sure that I announce that, and I'll speak to you privately with regards to anything else. Thank you for what you do. We've got an election coming on. We've got uncontested, but we have a couple other things on the ballot like Prop M. And legislative stuff is going on. I just attended the Municipal League Executive Board meeting today. A lot of, silly goofy stuff going on, but at the end of the day, we'll see what happens at the end of the legislation session in May. I'll let you know what passed and what didn't make it. As you can see, right now we're asking that they bag the thought of getting rid of sales tax at grocery stores. While that doesn't directly impact us, it impacts our region and other areas. So there's some, stuff that we're monitoring. So that's kind of my report. Stay dry. Happy St. Patty's Day tomorrow.
Thank you for the necklace. Any?
No comments, except my dad needs to get my son to bed. They are online right now.
Okay. Well, you heard her.
That's all.
All right, that being said, we will adjourn at 8:19 unless anybody has anything else. Seeing none, we'll adjourn.